101 Famous Poems, Ode to the West Wind. Percy Bysshe Shelley, born August 4th, 1792, died July 8th, 1822. Bedman. O wild west wind, thou breath of autumn's being, thou from whose unseen presence the leaves dead are driven, like ghosts from an enchanter fleeing, yellow and black and pale and hectic red, pestilence-stricken multitudes. O thou who chariotest to their dark wintry bed the winged seeds, where they lie cold and low, each like a corpse within its grave, until then azure sister of the spring shall blow her clarion o'er the dreaming earth and fill, driving sweet buds like flocks to feed in air, with living hues and odors plain and hill, wild spirit, which art moving everywhere, destroyer and preserver. Hear, O hear, thou on whose stream, near the steep sky's commotion, loose clouds like earth's decaying leaves are shed, shook from the tangled boughs of heaven and ocean, angels of rain and lightning. There are spread on the blue surface of thine airy surge, like the bright hair uplifted from the head of some fierce Maenad, even from the dim verge of the horizon to the zenith's height, the locks of the approaching storm. Thou dirge of the dying year, to which this closing night will be the dome of a vast sepulchre, vaulted with all thy congregated might, of vapors from whose solid atmosphere black rain and fire and hail will burst. O hear, thou who didst waken from his summer dreams, the blue Mediterranean where he lay, lulled by the coil of his crystalline streams, beside a pumice isle in Baiae's Bay. 101 Famous Poems to a Skylark. Percy Bysshe Shelley, born August 4th, 1792, died July 8th, 1822. Bedman, hail to thee, blithe spirit, bird thou never wert, that from heaven or near it pourest thy full heart in profuse strains of unpremeditated art. Higher still and higher from the earth thou springest like a cloud of fire, the blue deep thou wingest, and singing still dost soar and soaring ever singest. In the golden lightning of the sunken sun, o'er which clouds are brightening, thou dost float and run, like an unbodied joy whose race is just begun. The pale purple even melts around thy flight, like a star of heaven, in the broad daylight thou art unseen. But yet I hear thy shrill delight, keen as are the arrows of that silver sphere, whose intense lamp narrows in the white dawn clear, until we hardly see, we feel that it is there. All the earth and air with thy voice is loud, as when night is bare from one lonely cloud the moon rains out her beams, and heaven is overflowed. 101 Famous Poems. The Snowstorm. Ralph Waldo Emerson, born May 25th, 1803, died April 27th, 1882. Bedman, announced by all the trumpets of the sky, arrives the snow, and driving o'er the fields, seems nowhere to alight. The whited air hides hills and woods, the river and the heaven, and veils the farmhouse at the garden's end. The sled and travelers stopped, the courier's feet delayed, all friends shut out. The housemates sit around the radiant fireplace, enclosed in a tumultuous privacy of storm. Come, see the north wind's masonry. Out of an unseen quarry evermore furnished with tile, the fierce artificer curves his white bastions with projected roof round every windward stake or tree or door. Speeding, the myriad-handed, his wild work so fanciful, so savage, naught cares he for number or proportion. Mockingly on coop or kennel he hangs Parian wreaths. A swan-like form invests the hidden thorn, fills up the farmer's lane from wall to wall, maugre the farmer's size, and at the gate a tapering turret overtops the work. And when his hours are numbered and the world is all his own, retiring as he were not, leaves when the sun appears. Astonished art to mimic in slow structures, stone by stone, built in an age, the mad wind's night work, the frolic architecture of the snow. 101 Famous Poems. The Daffodils. William Wordsworth, born April 7th, 1770, died April 23rd, 1850. Bedman. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jound company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude, and then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils. 101 famous poems. Little Boy Blue. Eugene Field, born September 3rd, 1850, died November 4th, 1895. Batman. The little toy dog is covered with dust, but sturdy and stanch he stands, and the little toy soldier is red with rust, and his musket molds in his hands. Time was when the little toy dog was new, and the soldier was passing fair, and that was the time when our little boy Blue kissed them and put them there. Now don't you go till I come, he said, and don't you make any noise. So toddling off to his trundle bed, he dreamt of the pretty toys, and as he was dreaming, an angel song awakened our little boy Blue. Oh, the years are many, the years are long, but the little toy friends are true. Aye, faithful to little boy Blue they stand, each in the same old place, awaiting the touch of a little hand, the smile of a little face, and they wonder, as waiting these long years through, in the dust of that little chair, what has become of our little boy Blue, since he kissed them and put them there. From the poems of Eugene Field. Copyright 1911, Charles Scribner's Sons. 101 famous poems. The Chambered Nautilus. Oliver Wendell Holmes, born August 29th, 1809, died October 7th, 1894. Bettman. This is the ship of pearl which, poets feign, sails the unshadowed main, the venturous bark that flings on the sweet summer wind its purpled wings in gulfs enchanted, where the siren sings and coral reefs lie bare, where the cold sea maids rise to sun their streaming hair. Its webs of living gauze no more unfurl, wrecked is the ship of pearl, and every chambered cell, where its dim dreaming life was wont to dwell, as the frail tenant shaped his growing shell, before thee lies revealed, its irised ceiling rent, its sunless crypt unsealed. Year after year beheld the silent toil that spread his lustrous coil. Still, as the spiral grew, he left the past year's dwelling for the new, stole with soft step its shining archway through, built up its idle door, stretched in his last found home, and knew the old no more. Thanks for the heavenly message brought by thee, child of the wandering sea, cast from her lap, for Lord, from thy dead lips a clearer note is born than ever Triton blew from breathed horn, while on mine ear it rings. Through the deep caves of thought I hear a voice that sings, build thee more stately mansions, O my soul, as the swift seasons roll, leave thy low vaulted past. Let each new temple, nobler than the last, shut thee from heaven with a dome more vast, till thou at length art free, leaving thine outgrown shell by life's unresting sea. Christmas Everywhere, Phillips Brooks, born December 13th, 1835, died January 23rd, 1893. Bettman. Everywhere, everywhere, Christmas tonight. Christmas in lands of the fir tree and pine, Christmas in lands of the palm tree and vine, Christmas where snow Moonlight from The Merchant of Venice, William Shakespeare. How sweet the moonlight sleeps upon this bank. Here will we sit and let the sound of music creep in our ears. Soft stillness and the night become the touches of sweet harmony. Sit, Jessica. Look, how the floor of heaven is thick inlaid with patines of bright gold. There's not the smallest orb which thou beholdst, but in his motion like an angel sings, still choiring to the young-eyed cherubims. The House by the Side of the Road. Sam Walter Foss, born June 19, 1858, died February 26, 1911. He was a friend to man, and he lived in a house by the side of the road. Homer. There are hermit souls that live withdrawn in the place of their self-content. There are souls like stars that dwell apart in a fellowless firmament. There are pioneer souls that blaze their paths where highways never ran. But let me live by the side of the road and be a friend to man. Let me live in a house by the side of the road, where the race of men go by. The men who are good and the men who are bad, as good and as bad as I would not sit in the scorner's seat, or hurl the cynic's ban. Let me live in a house by the side of the road and be a friend to man. I see from my house by the side of the road, by the side of the highway of life, the men who press with the ardor of hope, the men who are faint with the strife. But I turn not away from their smiles nor their tears, both parts of an infinite plan. Let me live in a house by the side of the road and be a friend to man. I know there are brook-gladdened meadows ahead, and mountains of wearisome height, that the road passes on through the long afternoon and stretches away to the night. But still I rejoice when the travelers rejoice, and weep with the strangers that moan, nor live in my house by the side of the road like a man who dwells alone. The night has 1,000 eyes. Francis William Bourdaloue, born March 22, 1852, died January 13, 1921. The night has 1,000 eyes, and the day but one. Yet the light of the bright world dies with the dying sun. The mind has 1,000 eyes, and the heart but one. Yet the light of a whole life dies when love is done. Right through the line they broke. Cossack and Russian, the saber stroke shattered and sundered. Then they looked back, but yet. Cannon to right of them, cannon to left of them, cannon behind them, followed by thunder, stormed out with shot and shell, while horses and jaws of death, into the mouth of hell rode the 600, flashed all their sabers bare, flashed as they turned in air, sabering the gunners there, charging an army, while all the world watched, plunged in the battery smoke. The Rhodora, on being asked whence is the flower, Ralph Waldo Emerson. In May, when sea winds pierced our solitudes, one found the fresh Rhodora in the woods, spreading its leafless blooms in a damp nook, to please the desert and the sluggish brook. The purple petals, falling in the pool, made the black water with their beauty gay. Here might the redbird come his plumes to cool, and court the flower that cheapens his array. Rhodora, if the sages ask me why this charm is wasted on the earth and sky, tell them, dear, that if eyes were made for seeing, then beauty is its own excuse for being. Why thou wert there, O rival of the rose? I never thought to ask, I never knew, but in my simple ignorance, suppose the selfsame power that brought me there brought you. while the waters gurgled and laughed and wept, out to old Aunt Mary's. And as many a time have you and I, barefoot boys in the days gone by, knelt, and in tremulous ecstasies dipped our lips into sweets like these. Memory now is on her knees, out to old Aunt Mary's. And oh, my brother so far away, this is to tell you she waits today to welcome us. Aunt Mary fell asleep this morning whispering, the boys to come. And all is well out to old Aunt Mary's. From Afterwhiles by James Whitcomb Riley. Copyright 1898. Used by special permission of the publishers, the Bobbs Merrill Company. The complete edition of Riley's poems includes many stanzas which are familiar only to the student of Riley's poems. Most editors omit the next to the last stanza, as the poem stands complete, but it is the opinion of Professor M. Alden of Stanford University that with this omission the continuity of thought is broken. Out to old Aunt Mary's, James Whitcomb Riley. On an early day in a memorable October, Reuben A. Riley and his wife, Elizabeth Maureen Riley, rejoiced over the birth of their second son. They called him James Whitcomb, from the complete works of James Whitcomb Riley, Bobbs Merrill Company in 6 volumes. Mr. Riley always replied when asked the direct geese year through 1835, 966 General Finn copted Darrow his birth. Born October 7, 1849, died July 22, 1916. Wasn't it pleasant, O brother mine, in those old days of the lost sunshine of youth, when the Saturday's chores were through, and the Sunday's wood in the kitchen too, and we went visiting, me and you, out to old Aunt Mary's. It all comes back so clear today. Though I am as bald as you are gray out by the barn lot, and down the lane we patter along in the dust again, as light as the tips of the drops of the rain, out to old Aunt Mary's. We cross the pasture, and through the wood where the old gray snag of the poplar stood, where the hammering redheads hopped awry, and the buzzard raised in the clearing sky, and longed and circled as we went by, out to old Aunt Mary's. And then in the dust of the road again, and the teams we met, and the countrymen, and the long highway, with sunshine spread as thick as butter on country bread, our cares behind, and our hearts ahead out to old Aunt Mary's. I see her now in the open door, where the little gourds grew on the sides, and o'er the clapboard. And her face, oh me, wasn't it good for a boy to see? And wasn't it good for a boy to be out to old Aunt Mary's? Build today then, strong and sure, with a firm and ample base, and ascending and secure shall tomorrow find its place. Thus alone can we attain to those turrets, where the eye sees the world as one vast plain, and one boundless reach of sky. Opportunity, Edward R. Sill, born April 29, 1841, died February 27, 1887. Bettman. This I beheld, or dreamed it in a dream. There spread a cloud of dust along a plain, and underneath the cloud, or in it, raged a furious battle, and men yelled, and swords shocked upon swords and shields. A prince's banner wavered, then staggered backward, hemmed by foes. A craven hung along the battle's ester steel, and thought, that blue blade that the king's son bears, but this blunt thing. He snapped and flung it from his hand, and lowering crept away and left the field. Then came the king's son, wounded, sore bestead, and weaponless, and saw the broken sword, hilt buried in the dry and trodden sand, and ran and snatched it, and with battle shout lifted afresh he hewed his enemy down, and saved a great cause that heroic day. Famous Poems. Preface. This is the age of science, of steel of speed, till perneared tea as Strath Al and hard highways. Science and steel demand the medium of prose. Speed requires only the look, the gesture. What need then for poetry? Great need. There are souls in these noise-tired times that turn aside into unfrequented lanes, where the deep woods have harbored the fragrances of many a blossoming season. Here the light, filtering through perfect forms, arranges itself in lovely patterns for those who perceive beauty. It is the purpose of this little volume to enrich, ennoble, encourage, and for man, who has learned to love convenience, it is hardly larger than his concealing pocket